In the CBA negotiations, the owners have countered with their own proposal, and even I could admit there's some interesting stuff in here. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. Another little shorter episode here, the business of baseball. We talked this morning, on Thursday morning, about the proposal from Wednesday from the Players Association to open CBA negotiations. The owners responded today with their own proposal. And just the fact that happened is progress. Last time we did these negotiations, the players presented their first proposal in May, like this. The owners didn't officially respond with their first proposal until August. So the fact that we even got something today is progress. I don't know how much closer we are to actually having anything agreed to. But there's a proposal out there. So like we did this morning, let's talk about the proposal, what's good, what's not, why it might or might not work, and let's read the response from the other side verbatim like we did this morning. And again, my natural inclination is to be on the side of the players on this. Again, if you give me the option of backing millionaires and billionaires, the millionaires are closer to you and me than they are to the billionaires. But the owners did have some valid points in here. The problem I have with the proposal was it was too brief. Okay, so MLB proposed, as we expected, a hard salary cap. $245.3 million. 8 teams right now are over that. And it's important to point out on these numbers are coming from the luxury tax calculations, which we don't use the actual cash you're paying. We use the average annual value. It smooths everything out and all of that. So $245.3 million would be the cap. 8 teams would have to lower their payroll. The floor, they proposed a higher floor than the players did. The players proposed a soft floor of $150 million, right? That competitiveness tax if you're not at that point. The owners proposed $171.2 million. 12 teams would have to increase their payroll. And the difference would be positive $38 million in the players' direction. So you would be adding more money on the bottom than you would be shedding on the top. So like right there, it's a very high floor. That is something that I think everybody who saw this was like, okay, that's really good floor. The high isn't that much better than the current CBT tier. It's 244 is the first tier. So they're proposing in essence to just stop there. And it's important to note that this proposal does include player benefits, which is the retirement that they pay, injury settlements, all of that stuff. Fangraphs calculates that to be around $17 to $18 million per team. So a floor of 171 is functionally close to 150, 155 in actual payroll you're paying plus these benefits. I don't think the players' proposal was counting all of that. I think the players' proposal was just straight payroll. So there's a difference here. It is a hard cap. It is a floor. And when you talk about a hard cap and floor, the number one thing that comes up is you have to talk about the revenue split. The idea of a hard cap and a hard floor is we are going to make sure, in essence, that everybody is receiving roughly the same amount of money. And the division between management and the players is specified in the CBA. And in this case, the owners proposed an exact 50-50 split. So 50% of baseball revenues would go to the owners and 50% would go to the players. And what the owners say, or I guess MLB says, is that this would increase the amount of money going to the players. Because they said going back to 2003, MLB revenue has increased by more than player payroll has. So if there's a 50-50 split, the players would be getting more revenue going forward than they're on track to get now. And I do think that's a very valid point. MLB revenue, according to MLB, has increased 247% since 2003, but player payroll has only gone up 149%. And so Major League Baseball says, in essence, you're getting a cut of all of the revenues, of baseball revenue. It's increasing faster than your payroll was. And so you are going to make more money under this system than you would have made under a cap system. And again, 50-50 split on baseball revenues. Now, the way that the league proposes to do this revenue is they're going to go ahead and centralize all of their media rights. Now, as in on this, they're going to share all their media revenue equally. They're going to pull everything together and share all of the money. So the major financial issue, we talked about it this morning, the major financial issue we've been dealing with has been the fact that some teams have massively huge TV deals and some of them don't. And that is the big disparity. Yes, attendance is different. A lot of that's driven by your play on the field. And the Players Association proposed to let you keep more of your local revenue from your games and take more of the TV money. The league is saying in essence, take all the TV money and share it amongst everybody. And to me, and I said it this morning, that's something you have to do to get a cap and a floor. The reason the NFL's cap works so well is the fact that everybody's playing from the same pool of money, minus the little bit of differences you have locally. But more than 70% of their money or 75% of their money comes from the TV deals the league has. Major League Baseball is different. You get more money usually from local than you do from TV, unless you have a fantastic TV deal. So the league is proposing to fix that. The owners are proposing to fix that. One thing the owners are going to have to do that they have been unwilling to do to this point, if they want that to work, is they're going to have to open their books. Baseball has been unique amongst all of the major sports because we, other than the Atlanta Braves, who are required to publish financials, we don't know what MLB teams make. Whenever we get any sort of public, this is how much they're making, this is their revenue, and all of that, those are all estimates. Those are all ballpark figures based on attendance and average ticket price and the known amounts of the TV deals. Those are all just estimates. And reportedly, some people have said that they're way off. We just don't know. Something the owners will have to do if they want this to happen is they're going to have to open their books. Now, the way basketball handles this, the Players Association and the league jointly pay for independent auditors to go in. They have full access to all of the financials from every team, and the CBA explicitly spells out, one, the percentage, 50% in this case is what MLB proposed, and what constitutes basketball revenue. So what is derived from games and what is and is not applicable in revenue sharing. That is all explicitly spelled out in basketball CBA, and they have a mechanism that allows for that to be audited, to be reviewed. Now, because it's based off of revenue, The other issue that basketball runs into that the MLB, sorry, I hate the MLB, that MLB has talked about here, the players would get paid in escrow, meaning the money would be set aside. And once everything is verified, revenues are confirmed, more would be added to that if revenue was higher. Money would be taken away from that if revenue was lower. And quite famously, from 2024 to 2025, the NBA players lost like $480 million because league revenues was lower than anticipated. Now, let's be clear, they don't keep all of their money in escrow. For the NBA, it was something like 10% is put into escrow. And again, if it comes back, revenues come back lower, they take that money from escrow. If revenue comes back higher, they add more money and then pay that out to the players. It'd be like an extra check you get in like December or January or something for the previous season. It's not, they wouldn't get paid at all. They'd get paid most of their normal and the rest of it would go into that account. But if the league wants that system to work, they're going to have to be willing to give the players access to their books. And it's very clear that they would, right? It's abundantly clear that they would do that. But it's not been a thing they've been willing to do before. There's been insistence at different places that like, oh yeah, the league lost $1.8 billion last year. Really? Show us the books. Nobody believes when we say that Major League Baseball as a whole, those teams lost almost $2 billion last year. It's $60-something million per club. If that's true, show us the books. And every time it's gotten to the point where they've needed to show the books, they've always backed off. So maybe it's true. I will eat crow if it's true. I just don't think it is. But anyway, that is something the players or the league would have to do to get the cap. I do feel like the overall numbers roughly make sense. Again, this is the starting point. That cap would have to go up. And it probably would have to go pretty close to where the players wanted it, like $300 million, for it to actually be accepted. But the floor being set where it is really interesting. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the comparisons between the two plans, what wasn't in the owner's plan, and what the Players Association said about this. We'll do all of that next, right here on Braves Today. But first, this episode is brought to you by IQ Bar, our exclusive snack, hydration, and coffee sponsor. IQ Bar protein bars, IQ Mix hydration mixes, and IQ Joe mushroom-infused coffees are the delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel you need to win your day. The Ultimate Sampler Pack's a great way to try all their products and flavors. You get 9 IQ Bars, 8 IQ Mix sticks, and 4 IQ Joe sticks. And all IQ Bar products are clean label certified and entirely free from gluten, dairy, soy, GMOs, and artificial ingredients. With over 20,000 5-star reviews and counting, more people than ever are fueling their busy lifestyles with IQ Bar's brain and body boosting bars, hydration mixes, and mushroom-infused coffees. And that Ultimate Sampler Pack includes all 3. Right now, IQ Bar is offering Braves Today listeners 20% off of all of their products, including the Ultimate Sampler Pack, plus free shipping. To get your 20% off, text MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. That's MLB to 64000. Messages and data rates may apply. See terms for details. Okay, let's talk about the differences in these plans. Let's talk about what wasn't in the ownership plan that is going to have to be part of this. But before we do that, something really interesting about this, I mentioned it a second ago. The owner's floor is higher than the player's competitive integrity tax. Remember, the players proposed 150 as the floor, the soft floor. The owners proposed 171.2 as the hard floor. And what that tells me is the owners are technically acknowledging all of the teams at the bottom can pay more. They're not, but they can. If you look at it right now, getting off of the Fangraphs numbers, when you look at the cash payroll, Miami Marlins are at $74 million. The luxury tax number is 84. And Cleveland's at 85 in cash, 101 on the luxury tax. all of these teams can be paying more. And by MLB suggesting such a high floor, they're acknowledging that, hey, these teams can pay more. And obviously, both sides had revenue sharing proposals that would fund those teams so that they can easily meet these minimums. So I do think if nothing else comes out of the CBA that's different, the one thing you're going to see is more revenue sharing mechanisms in place to help get money to the teams at the bottom. To take money from the teams at the top and give money to teams at the bottom. We're redistributing income here. The one thing that confuses me, though, real quick, is MLB spokesman Glenn Kaplan. He's going to be the guy for MLB on all these quotes. He put out something about how this is going to help competitive balance, but I can't figure out where his numbers come from. Quote, ultimately, the game is about hope and competition, and too many fans and too many markets have too little hope their team has a fair chance to win. Fair. Fans overwhelmingly support a salary cap and floor like in the other leagues because they don't believe a $446 million spending gap from top to bottom is a fair fight. Where does that number come from? Where is the 446 coming from? Nobody's cash payroll is even $400 million. LA's at $399. Nobody's luxury tax payroll is even $410. Where does 446 come from? I think I already complained about this in the show. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. But anyway, quote, our salary cap and floor proposal levels the playing field while sharing baseball revenue with the players 50-50 as we grow the game together. Further, by sharing media revenue equally as part of our proposal, we can address another top fan concern of local TV blackouts. We look forward to working with the MLBPA during the bargaining process to continue improving the game for the fans. They're right. If you have the pooled rights, there is no more blackouts. Although right now, you don't have a lot of blackouts. For the most part, like that's been significantly fixed already. But anyway, the things that aren't present in one that are in the other is one of the things you're going to have to get more details on. So those of you here on YouTube, I've got a tab here at the bottom of a graphic. I'll pop up a little bit to go over it. But it details the differences in the two proposals. The players proposed a minimum salary increase of $1.5 million. The owners did not address that in their proposal at all. Okay. We already talked about the difference in the floor and the cap, the difference in revenue sharing. The players proposed limited changes to when you reach free agency. In essence, if you're 30 years old with 5 years of service, you can be a free agent early. The owners didn't touch that at all. It's important to note in 1994, the last time the owners pushed for a hard cap, at that time, they proposed changing free agency from 6 years to 4 years. So I'm a little surprised that they didn't put it in here now. It almost feels like they want the Players Association to agree to the concept of a cap before they do any of that other stuff. Just a little surprised that it wasn't in here up front, right? Give them as many carrots as possible of other things they were wanting, but condition it on you have to accept the hard cap. Instead, the only real incentive that they have here is the high floor. That's the only thing that they're giving the players in the first proposal. And to me, that's a little bit odd because the biggest lift by far for the players is accepting the existence of a cap in the first place. So odd that they're not giving them more of what they want and say, hey, all of these things can be yours if you accept the concept of a hard cap and then work out the details on the hard cap later. So no adjustments there, no adjustments to the pre-arb bonus pool, no adjustments to the arbitration minimum, Super 2, any of that stuff. The proposal was really just, here's a cap, here's a floor, here's revenue sharing. That's kind of it. I am also a little bit curious as to how they got the figures, the 171 and 245. So again, they proposed a 50-50 split, which is fine. So the cap and floor are percentages, usually, of the revenue you think you're going to make. That is another thing you can negotiate, right? If you take the average, like whatever it is, you can negotiate the percentages that go to each thing. I'm a little curious about how they did this, right? How they came up with this. Now, The players rejected this immediately, which we knew they would, just like the owners rejected what the players did immediately. Because the players do not want a hard cap. That's been the galvanizing principle of the Players Association since it was formed, was we don't want a hard cap. And they're the only league that doesn't have it. Here is the quote from Interim Executive Director Bruce Meyer of the Players Association. Like I did this morning for the MLB quote, I'm going to read this quote without any sort of editorialization, just going to read it in full. Quote, yesterday, the MLBPA presented a comprehensive package of proposals designed to increase compensation for players at all levels and to incentivize and reward competition on the field. The owners responded today with a demand for a salary cap system, something generations of players have fought against. The last time the owners made such an explicit push for a cap, over 30 years ago, it led to the longest work stoppage in MLB history. For generations, our members have fought against cap systems because they harm players at all levels, erode or eliminate contractual guarantees, pit player against player, lead to more work stoppages, not less, and get worse for players over time. Caps don't lower ticket prices for fans, eliminate tanking, or ensure teams are run with equal competence. They suffocate competition by offering owners an all-purpose excuse for inaction and mediocrity. Baseball is experiencing unprecedented momentum, and owners are enjoying record viewership, revenues, and franchise values. Billionaire owners are not seeking to cap their profits or asset values, only players' salaries. This isn't out of generosity or a desire to protect the game's well-being. It's a play to control costs, increase profits, and maximize franchise values, all at the expense of players past, present, and future. We'll continue our review of the owners' proposals and stand ready to negotiate system improvements that benefit players and fans alike. End quote. For those of you who don't know, when they refer about how a cap system harms players, it is because under a cap system, it is a zero-sum game. For one player to get more money, another player has to get less. And you see this play out a lot in the NFL. What happens when an NFL team drafts a quarterback and then it's time to pay that quarterback a market rate contract? Guys have to leave. They can't afford other guys because all of a sudden that quarterback goes to start making $40 million a year or 50 or whatever. That's what they're talking about, right? You have a starting pitcher who wins the Cy Young. You go to re-sign him. And even if you have the money to pay for other players, if you don't have salary cap space, you can't do it. And every penny that player gets is another penny that another player cannot get. That's what they're referring to. When they mention the guarantees, the contractual guarantees, NFL players don't have guaranteed contracts. And to me, that's the sport where you need them the most because there's the most injuries, the most violence in that sport. They don't have guaranteed contracts. MLB players, you are guaranteed every penny that you signed for. You're guaranteed to get every single one. And so I think the owners came out strong with the floor that they offered. I do think the ceiling, the cap, is too low. But again, like we said this morning, starting point. But the biggest lift to this is not going to be where the cap and floor is. It's going to be the existence of a cap in the first place. And Major League Baseball, if they want these players to agree to it, they're going to have to give them a lot of other things that they've perpetually been asking for. Getting rid of the qualifying offer, making it quicker to get to free agency. So shortening team control, all of that stuff, shorter to get to arbitration, all of that. They're going to have to do all of those things to get the players to agree to a cap. And even then, they're probably not going to do it. I still maintain the same point that I said this morning, that I said 3 months ago, that I said last year. In all likelihood, what's going to happen here is stronger penalties for not spending at the bottom and more incentives to spend at the bottom, and stronger penalties to discourage spending at the very top. You're going to strengthen the existing systems that are replicating a soft cap and a soft floor, because that giant TV negotiation means you're not going to get to the point where you lose games in this negotiation. We're probably not getting any more updates on this for a while. Last time, again, I said last time they did this negotiation, the offers were in May and then August. We probably won't get anything for a while. I think they're going to meet the end of next month or sometime early in July, maybe around the All-Star break. We may get something there. But again, strong offer from the owners. There's not enough reason for the players to accept it yet, right? They're going to have to do more, give the players more things for them to give up the single most valuable thing that they have, which is we don't have a salary cap. There is no limit on what you can spend to make your team better. There's a lot of fans I've seen on social media who are very insistent you've got to have a cap. I do think there are ways to replicate the same effect without explicitly stopping somebody from spending more money. But if you want the cap, owners, you've got to step up to the table and you've got to give them a reason to take it. And right now, the difference of $38 million is not enough reason to take it. That'll do it for this special bonus edition of Braves Today on Thursday night. We've got a show coming tomorrow morning to preview the Cincinnati Reds with a Cincinnati Reds podcast host, talking to them about the teams and the series this weekend. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, please like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time on Braves Today.